Hello, I'm Ollie and this is Criminally, where I talk about crime, pulp, horror, that kind of thing. Today, movies, I'm doing the book to movie adaptation tag. So this tag was created by Michael Romeo Talks Books, and he very kindly tagged me in the original video. There are 8 questions, the 8th of which is the obligatory tag some fellow booktubers questions, so 7 true questions. So let me go through those now. And as the name suggests, these are all questions about movie adaptations of books, which is a subject that I think is really interesting. And we've talked a lot in the kind of run up to Garb August about novelisations and things like that. But I think book to movie adaptations are really interesting as well, because they're such different art forms, books and movies, and things that work in books don't always work in movies, as all the films based on many of the films based on Stephen King's books prove. He's a much adapted author. But has I think a reasonably low hit rate in terms of successful adaptations of his book. Okay, so question 1 is, what movie or TV series is better than the book it was based on? So for this one, I'm going to go with the movie Die Hard, which was based on a book called Nothing Lasts Forever by an author called Roderick Thorpe, which came out in 1979. And the book, to be honest, is pretty good. So the setup in the book is essentially the same as in the movie. The main difference being that in the book, the detective, the Bruce Willis character, is the father of the person who works in the building that gets taken over by terrorists, rather than the husband. Where there's a big difference between the book and the movie is really just in tone. So actually a lot of the events are the same. And certainly, reading the book, you will spot some key scenes from the movie. But the difference is the tone, and the book is a really kind of quite nasty, angry book about this kind of late middle-aged man kind of railing against all these young terrorists. And it really feels like a kind of intergenerational struggle, rather than a struggle between the forces of justice and the forces of chaos. It's a good book. It's exciting, but I think the movie just gets the tone a lot better, and it's much more entertaining as a result. Okay, question 2 is, what is your least favourite movie adaptation? So I'm sure I'll get some comments about this. My least favourite movie adaptation is Silence of the Lambs, and that's not because I think it's a bad film. I think it's successful in many ways, but I do think it changed the character of Lecter from how he was portrayed in the books, and made him, through Anthony Hopkins' portrayal of him, more sympathetic, and it also changed the ending of the book. So the ending of the book is very different from the ending of the film in terms of what happens to Clarice at the end of it. And the sense I get is that really changed the public perception, because the film was so huge. It changed the public perception of Lecter. And I think in the later Thomas Harris books about Hannibal Lecter, he takes him in that slightly different direction, which I think is a different direction from the direction he'd originally intended for the character, because of the changes they made in the movie. So I think it's a movie that doesn't really do justice to some elements of the book, but also then changed what happened with the character in subsequent books in the series. That's why it's my least favourite movie adaptation. Okay, next question then. What book would you like to see made into a movie or TV series? Who would you cast? So I can only answer the first part of this. I did think about the casting question a lot, but just came up blank. But the book series I would love to see made into a TV show, and I think it would have to be a TV show, is the Wayfarers series by Becky Chambers, which I've talked about on the channel before, which I think is just wonderful. So it's a series of 4 books which are all set in the same universe and have some characters that link individual books, but don't have a continuing story running through them. About this kind of far future universe, which is populated by a massively diverse range of alien creatures and humans, and it's just a real celebration of diversity. both in terms of the different, all the different characters, so all the different types of aliens and things like that, all the different sexualities. You get kind of AI characters as well as like organic characters, I suppose. It's just a really beautifully done, or beautifully created universe, and I think it would make a great setting for a TV show, which I don't think would necessarily have to follow, the storylines of the books. I just think it's a fantastic world that Becky Chambers has created that could be very well explored in a TV show. Question 4: what movie or TV series deterred you from reading the book? So it didn't really deter me, but I'll answer the question and you'll see what I mean. So the TV series is Outlander. So my wife and I really like Outlander, the TV show. It's a bit cheesy, but it's a lot of fun. We've enjoyed watching it, and after we'd watched, I guess, the first 2 or 3 seasons, I thought I'll try the books, and I got the first book on Kindle and started reading it, and I had two big problems with it. The first one was the TV series is quite a faithful adaptation of the book, so I was like, well, I don't really need to read this because I know exactly what's going to happen. But the second thing is the book is so long, it's like I don't know, 800 pages or something like that, and I thought to myself, do I really want to read 800 pages where I know what's going to happen? And I decided no, I did not. So I didn't put myself through the experience of reading Outlander, but I do still like the TV show, and I'm sure the books are good. They just didn't work for me because I'd already seen the show. Okay, question 5: what is your favourite book to movie or TV adaptation? So I've gone with two for this: one TV, one book. And the reason I've done 2 is I actually answered the first question in my Ask Criminology video the other week. So somebody had asked a very similar question. So the movie is Children of Men. So the book by P.D. James, and then the movie directed by Alfonso Cuarón. Hello, Venus. Are you interrupting? Sorry, I've got an interrupting cat down here. I think it's a fantastic. I think it's a great book. I think it's a fantastic movie, and I think the thing it does well, to my point at the start of the video about movies and books being very different ways of telling a story, is the movie takes the central ideas of the book but turns it into something that works better as a movie. I think if you'd done a very straight adaptation of the book, it would have been potentially a bit dry and a bit slow. I think that works in the book, but I think the more action-oriented style of the movie worked a lot better for cinema. And then the TV series is a series of unfortunate events. So the recent Netflix adaptation of the books by Daniel Handler, I just thought it was a fantastic adaptation. We really enjoyed watching it with my son, and we'd read the books as well. I think Neil Patrick Harris was fantastic as Olaf. I thought the musical numbers were brilliant. I just thought it was a really lovely adaptation, and played around with the content of the books in a way, like with Children of Men, that really made it work on screen. I thought it was fantastic. Okay, question 6. What previously adapted book would you like to see remade and improved? Who would you cast? So I'm going to go for this with a book called Modesty Blaze by an author called Peter O'Donnell. So this is the first in a series of books. There was, I think, before the novels, there was like a comic strip as well, which appeared in the newspapers. And Modesty Blaze is kind of like a female James Bond. So she's like an ex-villain and super spy who goes on missions and stuff like that. So there was a movie of it in the 60s with Monica Vitti as Modesty Blaze. And Terence Stamp as her kind of sidekick. And the movie is just weird. I mean, it's quite fun, but it's weird and it doesn't get the kind of action-oriented heart of the book. So the books are just fantastically enjoyable. They are quite camp, but they're just really fun. They've got great action set pieces and things like that. And the movie just didn't quite work. There is a later movie that was made, I think, in the 90s, that I think Quentin Tarantino produced or something like that, which I haven't seen, but which is supposed to be okay, I think. But I'd love to see a big budget Modesty Blaze movie. I think it's just a property that would work really well on screen. And I think Lady Gaga would make a fantastic Modesty Blaze. So I think she's kind of got the glamorous looks. She's quite athletic, which I think anyone portraying Modesty Blaze needs to be. But she's also got a kind of quirkiness that I think would work really well for the character. Okay, question 7. What book series made into a movie or TV series is your personal favourite? So it's got to be, for me, the 87th Precinct series by Ed McBain, which I talk about all the time on the channel because it's so good. So a fantastic series of police procedural novels, 55 books in total, started in the 50s, finished in the early 2000s. So there have been numerous movie adaptations of the books over the years. So Akira Kurosawa, the very famous Japanese director, did one called High and Low. There's a Burt Reynolds, like a Burt Reynolds one in the 70s. There's like dozens and dozens of adaptations. There was also fairly early on in the life cycle of the books, an American TV show based on it, and then later there were a series of like TV movies based on it as well. But it's my favourite series of books. They're great mysteries, and I think we'll make a fantastic TV series. So yes, that's the main questions out of the way. So the final question then is to tag some friends who love books and movies. So I've got 3 people to tag for this. So I'm going to tag, actually no, I've got 4 people. So I'm going to tag Andrew at It Came From The Page, Michael K. Vaughan, Alice at Alice and the Giant Bookshelf, and Crystal at Fibre Artsy. So I don't think any of you have done this tag yet, but I think it's one you would all enjoy. So yeah, hopefully you'll do it and I'll get to see your answers as well. Okay, time for a random book from the shelves. So I talked about Stephen King in the video, so here is a Stephen King book which I think is in the process of being adapted at the moment. I'm sure it is because it's a Stephen King book. So this is one I haven't read. I did get it out of the library in hardback when it first came out and just couldn't get into it for some reason. So I've subsequently picked up a cheap second-hand copy because I need to get to it at some point. People do seem to really like this one. And I like the concept. I always like the concept of kind of schools for mysterious children. So yes, I will definitely get to it at some point, but haven't done so yet. Okay, thank you very much for watching. Do let me know what you thought of my answers. Let me know if you've got your own answers for these questions. But yeah, until next time, hope you're safe and well. Hope you really good stuff, and I'll speak to you again very soon. Cheerio.